You're listening to Happy Hour Hustle from the creative geniuses here at 834. We're funny, informative, and we swear. We talk all things marketing, communication, small business, plus we offer up hot takes on our industry and whatever else we feel like talking about. So, grab your drink of choice. It's always 5 o'clock at 834. And crank it up. Hey hustlers, welcome back. Today we want to talk about something that's going to impact everyone at one point or another. It's the caregiving crisis. Whether you're currently caring for a loved one or you one day find yourself needing care, this is not something we can ignore. Joining us to talk about it is Sarah Milanowski, the Enrollment and Marketing Manager at LifeCircles PACE, which provides an in-home alternative to seniors other than a nursing home, along with tons of other services and resources. Sarah, thank you so much for being here with us today on Happy Hour Hustle. I was just saying, we want to talk a little bit about the caregiver crisis and what's going on right now in the world. Can you help us just understand what you're seeing in the front lines at LifeCircles? What are you seeing right now where it comes to families being put in this position?
Yeah, I think the pandemic brought to light a lot of things that were festering for many people. We had a lot of coping skills before the pandemic, and the pandemic sort of pulled a lot of that away. And what we've seen is people who use our program for people 55 plus is that there are many more younger people who are having enough complicated health situations and frailty to be eligible for more advanced level of care. So our services are actually an alternative to nursing home care. So we're seeing a lot more young folks have enough mental health challenges, have had enough crises with lack of care and treatment for lung conditions and things like that, they're being eligible for our services a lot sooner. So we're seeing younger family members, if there are family members, we're seeing younger adults being the primary caregiver. So we're seeing people that are millennial, that are in their mid-30s and sometimes even younger, that are being caregivers to their parents these days.
Yeah, and it does happen. It feels like it happens quickly.
Yes.
People can be thrust into it. We're kind of talking about it right now in the holidays because this is a lot of times when people start seeing signs or there's those conversations are being had, around the dinner table or wherever.
For sure.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the common challenges you see families facing when they're suddenly thrust into that position?
Yeah, I think depending on when this is put out, I think hopefully people have recently spent time with family members over the holidays or they're about to. And I think what a lot of people might be seeing is that in short bits of time or over the phone, someone in their life can appear like they've got it all together, right? But when you spend a longer period of time with someone in your family, it's harder for that person to either intentionally keep up the ruse that everything's fine, nothing to see here. So I think that some of the things people might be seeing would be difficulty with attending to their schedule, their routine, having sort of, if it's new for them, like a shorter temper, a shorter fuse, sometimes around the hustle and bustle of the holidays, right? That's a time when routines are shifting a lot. When we all get together, it's loud, it's noisy, it's, rustling, running from here and there. Those might be concerns. If someone's physically going to someone's house, they might see a change in habits that were normal. So maybe mom was always the consummate cook and she had a well-stocked fridge and she was always ready to whip something up, and maybe now you open the fridge and it's almost bare, or there are things that are spoiled in the fridge, and if those things are unusual for mom or dad or whomever, those might be signs that something is changing that's making it harder to keep up with those same lifestyle routines that they once had, and there might be a reason to dig a little deeper.
Right.
I don't even remember if that was the actual question
No,
that you had
I
now,
mean,
but what people are seeing.
Yeah, no, well, it's that too, and I know a lot of times it ends up being the family member that's the closest that's taking care of them, or the child, but then all the family members are together, so that brings up more conversations around the dinner table of, why aren't you doing your part, or why you're not here?
Right.
How do you navigate that? So answer everyone.
A stiff drink.
Yeah.
No, I think it can be really hard, and there can be, like, if you have a large family, there can be a lot of different opinions, especially if there are people that live further away and may not spend that extended time with someone. The person who's closer physically, or maybe spending more time with that person, might be saying, hey, mom needs more help here. And then everyone else that doesn't spend as much time might be saying, what are you saying? You're gaslighting me. She's just fine. Why are you so concerned about this? You're just making it up. And typically, right, in our society, we really value independence, and mom or dad or whomever you're concerned about may also be like, yes, I want to agree with the people that are from out of town that say there's nothing to see here, because there's nothing to see here. Back off. So there can be some rifts, certainly, in families. And the other things that we see often is, even if we all agree that there is a problem, we might have differing opinions on obviously what the solution is, but like what our risk tolerance is, what we're comfortable with. Right. And so someone in the family might be more uptight and might say, nope, we don't want any risk. We want to put mom in a bubble, and there's no risk that we want to take. And there might be some family members that say, mom's her own person. She's always marched to the beat of her own drum, and she hates being around other people that she doesn't know. She likes to have her late nights and sleep in and all of those things. And so we don't want to do anything that's going to put her in a different environment where she can't live the life she wants. And it's more important for her to have quality of life than it is for her to be super safe. I'm using air quotes, super safe someplace else. So talking about what risk tolerance everyone has, and hopefully including mom or dad or aunt or uncle, and talking about what their goals are and their risk tolerance is. Are they willing to live at home with some support, even if it means they might have an accident in the future that could change the game completely for them? But if it's usually it's their right to say, that's what I want to prioritize, right? So having those conversations about different risk tolerances, I think, can sometimes help people feel better about decisions that mom or dad might make. Even if they personally wouldn't make those choices, at least they know why those choices are being made. And that can kind of give people a common language of why we're going in one direction or another with extra help from mom or dad. Coming from a place of concern rather than, I don't want to deal with it, or like, we don't want, like coming from a place of, this is why we care. And if you are not as concerned, that is a conversation for us to have. But for sure. Yeah. I'm a social worker, so I'm going to think like talking is like the first step for everything. You're like, what's your advice? Well, you should talk to them. But, okay. Exactly. But I think that like you can't come to good decisions that everyone feels good about without having those initial conversations. So. Right. Do you think this time of year, like the Thanksgiving, Christmas, holidays season, is the toughest for families in terms of navigating this? Or is it like a 24/7, 365-day a year? People don't actually, like, it's all the time. Well, I think like everything, right? Like there's people that are caregiving for someone that involves maybe 8-10 hours a week of time. And there are people that are caregiving for someone that requires literally 24/7. I wake up when she wakes up because she might be wandering. So I think depending on what sort of time frame you're at, it can be, this time of year can be extremely difficult trying to juggle everyone's additional expectations and squeeze in all of life's other expectations, right? Your work deadlines and taking time off work, and how do you get all the work done to take the work off, and then all of the family obligations of having a magical holiday season and all of those things. And then you get there and you do all this work and you rearrange your schedule from the caregiver's perspective, and mom is pissed. Like, she doesn't even want to be a part of this activity that we've just spent hours trying to create.
Yeah.
And then kids are screaming, and, you've seen, you have a family. We all have a family.
It's everything all at once all the time.
Yes, can just be very overwhelming. But, yeah, I think the holidays are hard no matter what side of the equation you're on, right? Yeah. There might be guilt from not spending as much time, and we often see our calls for services increase just after these winter holidays, after families are spending sort of longer times with family, and starting to get concerned, and there can be a lot of guilt for individuals when they show up and they realize, like, mom or dad isn't doing as well as I thought, and how did I let this ball drop? Yeah. So there can be a lot of guilt and shame and worry over that as well. Mm-hmm. And I hope people are kind to themselves because, again, I know I'm going to do everything in my power when I need more help to try to figure out ways to minimize that and not to keep that sort of as a secret. Even though I know all these things, I just think people shouldn't beat themselves up if they're seeing mom or dad struggle and they wish they would have caught it sooner, because we're all really savvy at trying to minimize the help that we need.
Exactly. I think, like you said, our society values individuals and being self-sufficient, and so it's really against our nature to say, like, I'm gonna fall back and rely on, for sure, on whoever. And I do feel like there's multiple things happening at once right now with this caregiving crisis. Obviously, there is, as you said, there's younger people because of the pandemic and the impacts that are becoming caregivers earlier in their life. It's this, like, the sandwich generation of people raising kids and also having to, like, then take care of families. And there's also this, like, critical shortage, I feel, of healthcare workers going into this profession, or that it's like the brain drain of it and people losing that. Can you talk about how all these things are compounding right now? And that it's not just one thing, right?
No. I think we've been trending, and we knew we were going to have a significant need for health professions and professional caregivers because of the baby boom generation, right? Like, we knew that was coming. Yeah. But I think what you couldn't really anticipate was sort of flip-flopping the job market during the pandemic, right? And no one thought that, a fast food worker would be offered, in some cases double what a private duty aide working in home care would be offered to do the most personal, the most intimate, some of the most important work. So there have been, and there continue to be, reasons why people who have a real passion and a heart for professional caregiving have had to look elsewhere for other job opportunities that paid more. And I don't blame anyone for that, right? I think one of the issues we have to face is, why do we pay so little? Why do we have such few infrastructure to offset and support really crucial services like caregiving? And as a society, we're, in Michigan especially, since the 1970s, we've spent the bulk of our Medicaid funding to help people with long-term care needs live in nursing homes full-time. That's their home. When it costs the state of Michigan, it costs taxpayers and you and I significantly less if we figured a way to provide just the right amount of support in their homes that they currently live in. And the people that are living in those homes that need extra support, most of the time they prefer to stay in those homes with extra support than go to a traditional living environment.
Because you almost think these are people that are already in a lot, like, they're receiving Social Security. They can't afford to be in their homes. So you're almost paying double for them too.
Exactly. So I think we really need to figure out why we can pay a premium in one setting, but we can't figure out how to pay that premium in another setting that saves money and helps people achieve their goals like they want to live. And I'm hopeful that we've had some more attention paid to the caregiver shortage because of all of these issues we've seen. I think there's always going to be a place for nursing homes and assisted livings, and there's always going to be a need for that. But I think we need to get more creative in how we pay for and provide for extra support in people's homes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you, obviously LifeCircles does a lot to allow people to stay in their homes and, age in place, to be there, to live their lives as normal as possible. What would be some of the things that you want to see, like, change out there that could help you guys do what you do, but also just families that they're not going to put their loved one in a nursing home?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing that I think about is, I've been in different areas of senior living, senior care, and have answered the initial calls from people who are worried and nervous and trying to do what's right for their loved one. And so many people think that there's only one right way to do this.
Yeah.
And they just assume that it is moving mom or dad into a traditional facility. So the first thing is, I really wish we would spend more energy and time in educating people that an assisted living and a nursing home aren't the only safe options.
Yeah.
And that even in those facilities, there are still things that happen. People still fall in those facilities. People still have injuries in those facilities. There's still medication errors in those facilities. So I really wish that people knew, like, let's look at all of the possible options and how to do that. Because we can often get on this one-track mind, and we've got doctors in our society that are worried about being sued all of the time. They have 10 minutes face-to-face with a concerned family and a patient, and they toss around words like they need 24/7 supervision. And that may not be actually what they need.
Right.
But the doctor is not going to take any risk.
Yeah.
And so if they say that, then anything negative that happens, they're covered.
Yeah.
And so I really wish we had medical training for our primary care physicians and our medical providers to know that there are alternatives for care, and to know that some risk is, for some people, is important if that means more quality of life. And then the other things that I would love to see is more funding and more resources given to people who want to be a caregiver and who maybe want to get a certification so that they could get paid more for having that certification. I don't think enough is done to tap into the people that love that kind of work, and you have to really have a heart for it to be good at it and to do it for a long time. And I also wish that there were more channels for those caregivers to enter into, like, a rung of progressive opportunity as well. Sometimes those caregiving roles can be a dead end for people. So I wish we had more creative programming and training and certification that we could help people level up if they wanted to add on or do something additional.
Yeah, or move into a different career or expand what they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's such a good point in terms of, because it does feel like a field. I mean, it's a medical field, which those have always over time been really attractive ones for people because they've been in some cases well paying. But it does feel like at some point, the people that are caring, the people that are teaching, the people that are doing all the things, those salaries went like this.
For sure. Yeah, they dropped down.
And it's just, it's hard to fathom. But then, like, there's interests and all that stuff. But I was talking to Jem Skyber of Special Olympics Michigan. She's talking about her experience with the special education system, which is something you said reminded me of our conversation, in that when she goes into rooms with her daughter who has a cognitive disability, they're telling her, like, well, you should get her into this program and put her on this so that she can like, and she's like, no, I want my daughter to be employed.
Yeah.
I want her to like, you're not listening to me.
Yes.
You're not hearing that I want this for her and she can do this. You're just kind of going to like lowest common denominator type stuff. And I feel like that's similar to what you're talking about with nursing homes, is they're like, well, no, just put them in a home. Like,
Yes.
And I wonder why our systems are built that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll keep going back to our healthcare system is designed to give us what we get.
Yeah.
And it's broken. And I think it continues to reinforce, right? When we're paid for as many visits as possible in one day, that's how we maximize. And we, as humans, as business owners, as people, we're always trying to optimize for something, right? And often we're trying to optimize for efficiency. And efficiency sometimes begets that customization and that personalization and helping people look at their actual goals and not just applying that sort of one size fits all slapdash approach.
Yeah, and part of me is like, okay, sure, it's easier to say one size fits all and they're trying to fit the most families, but when you do the personalized care and you make the effort earlier on, like you said, it's more affordable for our country. There's been studies on like
so much.
All of this exists to prove that it would
much.
actually save people money, and I just like there must be some kind of disconnect between where these studies are coming in, who's hearing them, and then what's happening at the state and congressional level to not make these things more of a priority if it's really draining that much money and talent out of our society.
This is my personal opinion, not like my employer's opinion, but I think our culture is okay with tapping into more maternal talents that just do it for free. And as long as people show up and we've got family that show up, and they rearrange their entire lifestyle, they leave jobs, but they make it happen, we're going to keep going with the free option, even though it's crippling. And it cripples other systems and other parts of the economy when we've got skilled labor leaving the workforce to go and take care of someone that is important and valuable work and meaningful work. But it's easy to turn a blind eye to it.
And I feel like it's playing a little bit on the guilt of those people too, which is just kind of annoying to me because why can't they have a career and also raise a family, and why do they have to rely on themselves to take care of this because there's not enough help available that's affordable? Or
so many shoulds on people that are supposed to do it all with so very little, and all of that self-sacrifice that we should just do. Because again, the self-sufficiency, it's like, no, people deserve a fair shake and everything. And that's, I think, one of the things that I always will harp on again is like, if we can have more conversations at the family level, like we need to have conversations at all levels, but at the family level, what can someone do today? It's like thinking about, okay, I am 38 years old and I should think that if I'm fortunate enough to live long enough that I will need hands-on assistance someday to meet my needs, and not just try to put that off in a black box that will never happen. And that's one of those scary thoughts. Like, I need to think about that. I need to think and know that everyone that's on earth today is going to die. Right? Like, that's a taboo. Like, we don't want to talk about that. But it's like a similar thing to think that I might have a disability someday that requires me to need hands-on assistance, and we're so ableist that we don't want to talk about that. But if we can talk about it and think about it from our own lens of what I'm going to want, what brings value and joy to me if I was reliant on someone else to support me and to be a care partner, I'm going to have, hopefully, slightly more empathy if I want to talk about this with someone who's maybe nearing needing that, or maybe does need it today, and to have those conversations. Like, I think it's so easy to think about what an elderly person in our family should do. But until, like, we think about what we would want to do today or tomorrow in those shoes, we can be extra judgy.
Well, and it's kind of like, that's the age-old problem, right? You never really, it's when you get to a certain age, you're like, I understand my parents. When you
Right.
when you have kids, you're like, I understand what they were dealing with me. When you so
Right.
it's the lack of being able to empathize until you're put in the position. So I totally agree.
Yes.
Being able to think in even a more selfish way and say like,
Exactly.
what I want in that position.
Kind of how, like where you have to start, and then you can begin to have more conversations about, okay, Mom, you are taking care of everything. In fact, Mom, you are watching my children and helping me right now, but there is going to come a day, if you live long enough, where you'll probably need some support for one reason or another.
Yeah.
Right? And what kind of support do you want? What's most important in your life? Is it more important for you to be local to grandkids and to, brothers and sisters and to have those family connections? Is it more important that like you've had enough family time in your life and you want to fly the coop and go to another state someplace else?
You want to travel.
Exactly. But like, what do they prioritize and what's most important to them? And then from there you can start saying, okay, knowing that that's so important, when you need hands-on assistance, how do you want that to look? Do you want it to be a family member? Would you prefer that family members not worry about it? And would you prefer to move to a facility? And some people do. In my experience, very few people actually want to do that. I think AARP does a study every year that says most people want to age in their own homes and age in place. But I think part of that's also we don't think about in tangible terms what the future holds if we need help.
People don't really like thinking about that either.
And you're gonna get pushback too. Like if I show up at Thanksgiving and I say, Grandma, hey, stop. Like tomorrow, if you need help taking a shower or a bath, who do you want to do that? Grandma's gonna be like, get out of here. What are you talking about? Stop it. Or if you want to talk to someone about their funeral arrangements, someone else is gonna say, don't talk about that. They'll shut it down.
I was just about to say. Yeah, you'll laugh at this. Literally, we didn't end up doing it because of timing, but at our last family Christmas, we were supposed to have a will party.
Sure.
And everyone was going to talk about their will.
Oh my gosh, that's so smart. And so hard, yeah.
Okay. Sorry. But we're going to make it fun. Everyone's going to like dress as a different will throughout history. So like William Shakespeare.
That is over the top, but I think I just had a new team work Halloween costume idea from that. Thank you. That is brilliant.
You're welcome. I can't wait for the pictures.
Yes, exactly. That's like, and advanced directives about healthcare, right? If you can't make your own decisions, like we all, regardless, as soon as you're 18, you should be knowing who you would want to make those decisions for you, and those are such hard conversations to make time for and to have, and
especially with the limited time we feel like we have with each other anyway.
That's
I
so
definitely
heavy, but I think the peace of mind that gives your other family members, if you can have those good conversations with people before something happens where you cannot speak for yourself. I've seen so many brothers and sisters have really great relationships and then have a crisis coming where one has a different opinion than the other and they both think they're acting in mom's best interest, and it breaks apart families. Right. And mom doesn't want that to happen either, but for some reason we think they'll just figure it out. They know what I want. I don't want to be a bother or a burden. And without having those conversations, we wind up putting more burden and guilt and pain in people's lives. So lead by example and have a will party with your family.
This is everyone's note to have their next holiday gathering be a will party, courtesy of my family.
That's awesome. I love that. Do you have like lawyers in your family?
No.
Wow. I'm just so impressed that someone would think to do that.
My mother-in-law's a nurse.
Oh, okay.
It was my sister-in-law's idea, I believe.
Nice.
But yeah, I don't know.
My family's gonna be so pissed when I come home. Wow, I love it.
You're gonna be like, look, we've got a new plan.
Oh, I'm already that person, but now like to dress up and to like bring all the good snacks, I think.
Yes.
Hey, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna be the Bill from Capitol Hill and just wrap myself in a big, sheet with like a red ribbon.
That's perfect.
Most people would get the reference.
Yes, for sure.
I do want to end on like a lighter note, hopefully. But what makes you hopeful about the future of caregiving?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's hard when you zoom out and you look at like the crisis from a grand scale.
Yeah.
But if you're able to zoom in and see the success stories, they can be so beautiful. I think about one very special person that joined our program a number of years ago, and she was just so angry with her daughter to even think that she could need help and support. And she was just, daughter called me later to say, look, I know it's not going to be you or your team. It's my mom. She is unhappy about everything, and she's going to tell you every day how unhappy she is and how terrible you are. It's not you, it's her. And we, with our recreation therapy program and our occupational therapists, they were able to help her think about her goals in life. And she had had a stroke at one point, and prior to that, most of her life was the church organist and the concert pianist and the performer and the show person. And after her stroke, she didn't receive enough rehab and support to get that function back. And so it was 5 years post-stroke when we started working with her. And once our team built a relationship with her, they were able to help her regain the strength and the dexterity in both of her limbs to be able to play the piano again. And so she was able to feel that pride and have that meaning and that purpose again, to have that back. She felt like she was missing something and sort of less than. And so knowing that there are just such loving and thoughtful people out there that are every day doing those little acts of purpose that help people feel more connected to themselves, makes me feel positive and happy. And there every day there are new people entering the field, and every day there are people that are able to carry out really amazing things. So that's what I have to think about.
But that's
stories.
That's what more people need to know, is the mending it can do, the pride people can get back when you really take the time to pay attention and do the work. And it's those little things that really do mean the most, right? Like, it's so cliche. Then the other thing that I always think about is Rosalynn Carter is one of my favorite people in the whole world, but she created a caregiving institute in Georgia. And she has a quote, I'm going to botch it for sure, but it's something along the lines of like, there are only 3 types of people in the world. Caregivers, someone who will need care, and someone who needs care today. Yep, I already flipped it around. It's someone who needs care, and then there's people who will need care. Assuming that we will all need care in some way at some point, that basically we're all caregivers, and we're all going to be care receivers if we're lucky, right? And to think about how we value and view each other in that ecosystem is really grounding and important. I love that. That's a great quote to end on.
Even if it's botched.
Even if... I don't know. It was fine. It was fine. Circle of life. We start needing care. We end needing care. No, it really is. It's beautiful. And I appreciate your insights on this. And I think it's really important to talk about. And hopefully when people listen to this, they'll be inspired to have their own conversations and will parties and just think about it more, because it's universal and everyone's going to be in that situation.
For sure. And there's more options out there, and sort of zooming out and thinking about what people want is just so helpful. And the earlier you can have those conversations, and even just a couple of quick Google searches in your history, right? Just a couple of phone calls just to know what's out there, is going to help you so much down the road, because we never know when a crisis will strike, and they often do. It can happen to anyone. Well, thank you so much for coming. We'll post links to LifeCircles, so if you don't know about them already, you can learn. Again, great organization with resources that will do all the things that we talked about, with just having those conversations and helping. And thank you so much for coming in. Thank you.
And hustlers, see you on the download.